Okay, so we've talked about the ego and we've talked about the inner critic. But what I want to tell you is all these defects of character or flaws that it's trying to bring forward to you are also a fiction. Now, you can act mindlessly based on a story you tell yourself about who you are, or you can move on and you can decide that you want to write the story. See, the story, this drama, this story of you is a piece of fiction created by the ego. It's trying to tell you who you are, who you have to be, and how you have to act. Absolutely, positively fictional. Don't let it dictate what you'll do and what you won't do. Break free. So, I'm going to tell you something that you'll think is stranger than hell. Your self-image is just an idea in your head. It's an idea. You are not the image you have of yourself. Let me explain. We have a story that we tell ourselves about ourselves, but it's just a story. Okay? We are creating it, and we can change it. Like any good actor, we have a script that we follow, we play it out, we rehearse it, we perfect it, and when the time comes, like muscle memory, we can perform it effortlessly. But our responses aren't a reaction to reality. Most of what we do are pre-programmed responses to our BS, our belief system. Most of what we do is we run on autopilot, acting as if we are this character in this story. But remember, it's just a story. We can be the authors of our own story. Decide who we want to be. Decide how our life is going to be. But we have to take our power back. We have to say that we're not going to listen to our negative inner critic. We're not going to listen to our ego. We're not going to be held back by the programming of our past. We are going to rewrite the story. I remember there used to be a bumper sticker that showed you how fast, simple, and easy it can be to rewrite your story. It was just a cute little bumper sticker, and it said, "What would Jesus do?" Now, I don't know if you believe in that type of thing or not. That's up to you. But anyway, I think everybody's got an image of what Jesus is, and supposedly he's this good guy, and he's out there, and he's never going to do anything wrong because, hell, he's Jesus. Okay? So you simply say, what would Jesus do? And then don't do anything that doesn't look like that. I don't know if you'll end up being Jesus, but you'll be several steps closer. Remember I said my job as a therapist was not to be perfect, but I was to bring you a little closer to where I was, my level of skill, by sharing my skills with you. Another way you can do that is picture somebody in your mind, a role model, and say, what would they do? Then that becomes part of your story. You are changing the script. You are no longer following your script, you're following their script, and that's why that technique actually works. Because given the fact that you're making this stuff up, you might as well give yourself a more idealized character to follow, and that will be as good or better a guide than what you've been doing. It'll certainly be different, right? We're just making this stuff up. Your self-image is just an idea in your head. Think of the words self-image. It's your image of yourself. It's how you picture yourself. That's just an idea in your head. You can make it up. Most people's self-image, their picture of themselves, okay, is wrong. I'll have people come in and say, "Oh, Mr. Paul, I'm so depressed and my life is horrible and I'm no damn good and I'm not a good person and I do these bad things and blah, 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 blah." I go, I don't really know what the hell you're talking about. I know you. I've spent time with you. You're an awesome person with me, unless you're secretly a butthead off to the side. Okay? I think you're a good person. You think you're not. One of us is wrong. You better pray to hell it's you. Oh, and by the way, I'm a therapist. I get paid to be right. I'm not wrong. I'm making a good assessment. You are a good person. You're wrong about you being a bad person. That's it. That'll be $300. And we have a laugh about it. But I go back to it. I'm not wrong. You're a good person. Matter of fact, most of what you consider bad about you is you crapping on you because you think you're not good enough. Now, most people would think if they could get to your level, they'd be awesome. But you think it's not good enough, and therefore it's crap, and therefore you're crap, and therefore your life is crap, and everything's going to crap. Did I say crap enough? This is the craziness that goes on in people's minds because of their self-image. And I'll tell you, you never match up to your self-image. You're always trying to better yourself, so you always make your self-image higher than you can probably accomplish based on all these phobias that are already programmed in. So it's kind of a, pre-programmed failure. And you go out and, of course, you fail, or you don't meet your own false standards, and then you feel bad. And everybody else is looking at you like, what's he talking about? He's fine. He does this, and he does that, and does the other thing. I kind of admire that he does this stuff over here. There's nothing wrong with this person. Everybody likes you but you. Why? Negative self-esteem based on a fictional self, bad old programming, maybe a bad history as well, too. I won't discount that. Life is rough. We're going to talk about that later. Don't think we'll miss that. But it's wrong. And you can move past it. So I want to give you that hope. Matter of fact, it's not even hope, it's a certainty. If you choose to move past it, you will. And we're going to teach you a little bit about how to do it here. So, why do we protect our self-image so desperately? One, we judge ourselves based on what others think. Remember that metacognition? Thinking about your thinking? We not only think about our thinking, we think about everybody else's thinking. Oh my God, what is everybody else thinking about me? If I can't keep my brain busy, okay, your ego wants to keep your brain chattering all the time. If it doesn't have enough to chatter about me thinking about my thinking, I can always move on to the other person. I used to love the episodes of Seinfeld because that was like a show based on neurosis. Everybody was worried about what everybody else was thinking. That was like a quintessential, almost cultural thing for New York, or at least in Jerry's crowd, right? Boom. Watch that show and watch how many times in a half an hour. You can have a little tick sheet. Just make a tick because it'll happen so many times you won't be able to write the stuff down or take notes. You can just put a tick mark. Worried about what other people think. Worried about what other people think. Worried about what other people think. They're even worried about what I think. Oh my God, am I a good person? Are people going to hate me? Da, 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 da. Should I have done that? Did I do the right thing? Blah, 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 blah. That's thinking about your thinking. Then if they weren't thinking about that, oh my God, so-and-so thought this and I thought that. And, if they're not thinking about what they did wrong, they're thinking about what the other person did wrong. That's thinking about other people. They're either worried that other people are judging them, they're judging themselves, or they're worried that other people are judging them. So study neurosis all in 20 minutes. If you skip past the commercials, boom. Not a good way to win. That's why the ego does this, so it can create a problem and then defend itself and look like a hero. Problem posing is a solution. Now, you actually have multiple minds. I actually did a little piece on YouTube and I put this up. I think I called it Multiple Minds. I believe I did. And what it does is it says you don't have just one mind. We've been talking about like two. Like there's the real you and then there's your ego. Well, I drew a picture of a brain, up on the board, and then I did it like a checkerboard. I just put a bunch of lines through it like a checkerboard. Exactly. And then what I did is I put different things in. Well, here's how you are with your friends. Here's how you are when you're alone, when you're at work. Here's the part of you that's ambitious and wants to go out and kick butt and take names. But then there's this other little piece of your brain, and it's lazy and just wants to eat bonbons and sit on the couch. Look for the next exotic beach, And then there's, one way when you're at work and one way when you're with your family, another way when you're alone. You're different, when you're in even different places. You act differently when you're in a firehouse versus a concert versus a bar versus a library. But you're the same person. So how can you be all these things and still be you? Well, what actually creates the congruency is you are all of these different personalities. You have a multiplicity of mind, not just the true self and the ego. There's all these little sub-personalities. This is the adaptation of the mind. To adapt the mind to different situations, it creates these little sub-personalities. They activate when they're needed, they deactivate when they're not needed, and sometimes we don't always pick the right one. Like look at the one for ambitious and the one for lazy. Here's what's interesting. The ambitious person and the lazy person are the same person. The ambitious person, because they want to move towards pleasure and away from pain, says if you're really, really ambitious and you work really hard, you'll get ahead quick, you'll have a bunch of money, and then you can do what? Go relax, retire, and be lazy. So what was their actual goal? They worked their butt off so they could achieve the maximum amount of laziness. Now, the lazy person says, well, relaxation should be happening right now. I want to relax while I'm young. I don't want to work too hard. I want to just do just enough not to get fired, and they're going to pay me just enough so I don't quit, and I'll get by somehow. I'll get lucky down the road, and I will maximize my relaxation and my laziness. Both the ambitious and the lazy person's ultimate goal is to be what? Lazy, free of pain. Now, you may not agree with that 100%, but you can agree that they're both trying to get maximum pleasure, minimum pain. They're working two opposing strategies trying to get to the same place. It's like if I said my goal is happiness, and you said, oh my God, Paul, my goal is happiness too. How many different ways can you use to get there? That's right, there's almost an infinite number of ways. Now, there's also an even larger infinite number of ways to screw up, but there's lots of ways to achieve the same thing. And some of them will look wildly opposed, like the ambitious and the lazy person. But the ultimate goal of happiness, which both the ambitious and lazy person want, that actually is the ultimate goal, they're just trying different systems to get it. You know, a police officer and a gangbanger are both working a system to achieve happiness. The gangbanger says, hey, I can cheat and get some free money. I'll be cool. I'll hang out with my buddies. I used to be the guy getting beaten up by the gangs. Now I'm the guy protected by the gangs and beating up other people. I'm stronger now. I'm significant. I'm powerful. I feel like I have some control finally in my life. Ah, feels wonderful. That's the same thing the police officer does. Well, now people respect me, and I'm cool, and I got a job, and I got security, and I got a pension, and people used to beat me up, but now I got a gun, and we have a totally different relationship now, and I'm helping the community, and I can feel good about myself, you know. Whew, I feel wonderful. Those are almost identical. There's very few distinctions. I mean, we could argue it back and forth, but the more you argue it with me, the more you'll find out it's actually the same, just done from a different perspective. Theoretically, they're identical. They're wildly different, no argument about that, in their approach. But to get to the same place, this is what's called multiplicity of mind. Now, sometimes you need both these characteristics. There's sometimes when you need to go out and be ambitious and kick butt and take names and be hard charging and make a lot of things happen fast. That's the perfect thing to do at that time. Too much of that and you can get burnt out. Sometimes, remember I told you the perfect thing to do sometimes is nothing. Isn't that a wild concept? Sometimes you need to kick back. You know, the strongest battery will wear out with use. You need to recharge your batteries. Being lazy is the perfect thing. Sometimes you need to relax when there's nothing to be done. Sometimes there's nothing to be done. We just have to wait. Enjoy that lazy time. Don't be revving up and trying to figure out what else you can do and blah, blah, blah. Use the right function of your brain at the right time. A lot of us have, I think all of us have all the right characteristics. We're not using them at the right time, in the right sequence, in the right amounts, in the right proportions. Okay? That's all the error we're making and why our lives are less livable. That's why I want you to understand that you have multiple minds. That's why you say, oh, how come I was so good at this time and I was so bad at this time? You know, it's the angel and the devil on your shoulder, you know. They're always talking to you. Those are the subcategories of your mind. It's which one you listen to. I used to tell my addicts this. I said, you have this huge mind, literally hundreds and hundreds of different sub-personalities like we just talked about. You only got one that's an addict. We need to beat this guy up. We gotta, if I walked in a room with 100 people, I don't care if you're Bruce Lee, you're going down. Bruce Lee couldn't take on more than 30 people at a time. I got 100. I can beat him 3 times over. There could be 3 Bruce Lees. I'd still win. Okay? Use all these good resources of your brain to shut down the part that's negative. And even teach yourself how to ignore the negative part, to suppress the negative part, or just tell it to take the day off. I'm teaching you these strategies, so now you know these strategies. They'll get better as you practice them, but think about it. You have a lot of good characteristics. Like if you're lazy but you want to be ambitious, what you do is you learn the philosophies of the part of your mind that's ambitious, because there's a little part that's ambitious. And what does that part think? Even though I'm not going to follow it, what does it think? If I think that way, I'll feel that way, and I'll act that way. Isn't that where we started? So the lazy person can become ambitious. I remember when I was going to go, I was thinking about going to school, but I didn't really want to go. I said, hey, I just did 12 years of school. I just graduated from high school. I want to go out there and work for a little while. I'm sick of school. Now you want me to do a 4-year commitment? There's going to be really smart people at the school. This is not playing around like high school. They do real papers, real assignments. You can't, fake it till you make it. I never thought of myself as that smart. It was a 4-year commitment. It was a lot of money. What if I screw up? And what if it just doesn't do me any good? And I thought like that. My buddy Nick said, Paul, most of it is you're lazy. You don't want to do the hard work. I mean, if I could snap my fingers and give you that degree, would you do it? I said, yeah, that's an advantage. Yeah, I'd throw that up on the wall, make myself some extra money, have better job prospects. Yeah, if I could just snap my fingers and make it happen, I'd do it. He said, so the only difference between that and where you are is you're lazy. You're not going to do the 4 years worth of work. You're lazy. And that's okay. That's okay. Just own it. And I'm like, yeah, you're not wrong. He said, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to work your lazy strategy more effectively. I don't think you're being lazy enough. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. He said, I'm lazy. I said, Nick, you can't be lazy. You're working like 2 jobs and going to school full time. That doesn't look lazy to me. He said, you're not wrong. But Paul, think about it long term. If you're quote unquote lazy and you go out there and you work 40 hours a week and you don't have your bachelor's, and I work 40 hours a week and I got my bachelor's, I'm making at least half again as much as I do. So I can either work hard for 4 years and then be lazy for the rest of my life, just work 40 hours and make half again or double what you're making. Okay? At some point I could work half the hours or retire in half the time and be lazy twice as long. The way that you actually work the most from start to finish is be lazy for 4 years and don't take that degree. The truly lazy person takes that degree and they maximize their gains and they minimize their work. Matter of fact, the lazy people get bachelors and they're supervisors. Why? Because the laborers, the line people, do the labor. That's the opposite of lazy. The managers, just watch them do it and make sure they're not screwing up and give them a little bit of advice. They are the laziest people you ever want to see. They live a lazy life. In your 47-year career of working, they are damn lazy. They have it so easy and everybody else has it so hard. Wouldn't you rather do the 4? In 4 years, you're going to arrive. Do you want to, 4 years from now, be able to be truly lazy and wealthy for the rest of your life? Or do you want to be overworked, underappreciated, and underpaid? That doesn't sound lazy to me. That sounds like a hardworking guy who's not getting the benefits of his work. I said, damn, that makes a lot of sense. My lazy ass became ambitious so fast. I jumped into school so fast. I said, I'm going to do it while Nick's there. Okay? And I jumped in. And he was right. He was absolutely, positively right. So, how did he convince me? He didn't try to turn a lazy person into an ambitious person. He tried to show me how I could use the strategy that I was currently using, because apparently I wasn't going to let it go, of being lazy, and turn this part of my mind to my advantage. So whether I was using the ambitious part or the lazy part, they were still going to see the goal as the same and move me aggressively in that direction, which was getting the degree. It was damn genius. So, that's a great strategy that you can use. Now, to wrap this section up, I want to tell you an old Zen belief that's absolutely true, and I think I've been proving it to you over and over and over again. but I just want to seal the deal. We're absolutely trapped in our own minds. We don't know how to program ourselves. We don't know how to deprogram ourselves. We don't know how to get out of this multiplicity. We don't know how to stop being negative to ourselves. We are trapped in here. We didn't even realize there's these multiple minds that we're literally stuck in here. But the old Zen belief is once you realize you're in jail, you can start plotting your escape. This is the first realization of the wise man or the wise woman, realizing that you have a problem. In medicine, they have an old maxim. It says proper diagnosis is half the cure. Once I know what's wrong with you, the solution is obvious. Now that you know you're trapped, you can start plotting your escape. Now that you know you have multiplicity of mind, instead of having it work against you, you can have it work for you. Realizing there's an inner critic, you can change what the critic says and turn it from a critic into a coach. From somebody that whines, bitches, and complains into a cheerleader. You can switch all these things. I think you can come up with as many creative ways as I can come up with, and a bunch I haven't thought of. So I hope that as you're learning these things, you're also seeing the solutions. Okay, that's it for this section, and I'll see you in the next training.